The Particular Abilities of Marinette and Her Discovery of Them by Planterfun06. Chapter 9. The Difference Between Can't and Won't. Going on the uneven bars was surprisingly similar to yo-yoing. She had to adjust her hand positioning to account for the fact that she wasn't actually holding a bar, and rather holding her hands together on one point. A lot of the basic maneuvering that she utilized on the bars, especially ones used to switch between the bars, she was using right now. Although it didn't mean that the adjustment period went smoothly. She ended up crashing into who Tiki told her would be her partner. Meeting Chat Noir was something. First off, she couldn't see the boy. Like, barely. He had barely any defining features, and he was so hazy that if he had walked past her on a normal day, she might have missed him entirely. And this person was supposed to be the person she worked with. He also seemed to be a bit too excited about the whole hero thing. He was willing to jump right in with no knowledge, plan, or any sense of a way to get from start to finish. Apparently, he had the miraculous of destruction. Marinette figured that was why she couldn't see him. In the 10 years she had been looking for answers, anything under the umbrella of creation didn't really connect. Maybe it was because not only could she see living things, but she could also see things like wood, corpses. Graveyards were horrifying, and she avoided them with anything she had. Dirt, and sometimes even water. Thinking about it, if she could see the water, she probably should avoid it. Now, for the first time ever, she was facing a creature that was coded in the entity and embodiment of destruction. In other words, the antithesis of what she could see. They managed together. Marinette, no, she was Ladybug right now, was able to conceal the fact that she wasn't able to see part of the scene, or her partner. Thank God they just ended up in a stadium with a grass field, and she was able to see Stoneheart despite him being made of rock. She didn't think she would be able to manage this otherwise. Her running theory on why she was able to see him was because he was originally human, or at least he was still a living creature. She'd have to ask Tiki later. They both used their special abilities, managed to take the akumatized item from Stoneheart, and they were able to break it. In breaking the akumatized object, Ladybug saw as the magic melted. She was definitely the magic she was seeing off Ivan, and left him in the state he was that morning. An average, run-of-the-mill Parisian teenage boy. Alia, the girl who had been sitting beside her in class that morning, before everything went crazy, ran up with what Ladybug guessed was a phone, before Ladybug bounded off on her yo-yo and went home. She dropped through her balcony skylight, found her parents running around because she wasn't in her bed. She just told them that she went to sleep on the balcony. They scolded her a bit before all piling on the couch to watch Naja Chemak, everyone with good taste's favorite reporter, covered the evening news. Apparently they were planning a parade for Ladybug and Chat Noir. She wasn't really sure about that. The threat was dealt with. It was over. Stoneheart was long defeated. She popped over to the hero scene for a hot minute. She got answers about herself that she'd desperately been wanting for years. Now it was all over. She was done. She would return to her normal life as a Parisian teenager who did competitive gymnastics, worked in her family's bakery, and who just happened to be blind. It was all over. Well, it was, until the news reported about the Heroes' Day parade stopped, and in rolled Naja Chamak, reporting about how people were being turned into stone statues resembling that of Stoneheart. Over 200 confirmed civilians were frozen in that form, because she messed up. She didn't know where it went wrong, but she knew it was her fault. One of two things happened. One, either she didn't pay attention before she transformed, and missed when Tiki had told her about the very important step of purification. Or two, Tiki got distracted because she decided that rather than dealing with the situation at hand, to have a Q&A about whatever the hell she wanted to know. She decided to be selfish, screw everyone, and get answers, rather than try and talk to Tiki about dealing with the rock monster supervillain and making sure that she had all the resources to do so. At the end of the day, it was entirely her fault. She knew it. She heard that little voice at the back of her head on the balcony, telling her that she had no idea what she was getting into, and she decided to ignore it. That voice, as always, was right. She didn't have any idea what she was getting into. She thought she could go out, be a superhero, and just get it done. She was a gymnastic. She had no form of combat training. She was blind. She couldn't even see half the world. What? She was a Hashin? She was some reincarnated soul? There's a reason the monarchy fell hundreds of years ago. People who are just born to do jobs generally tended to suck at them. What business did she have being a superhero? Wasn't that what the Justice League existed for? When were they going to show up and deal with this? Oh, don't get her started on how she dug herself even deeper trying to fix everything. The whole thing rested on the shoulders of Ivan not getting emotional. Oh, a teenager not getting emotional. 2 hours into the day, he was akumatized, and it was all her fault. Ivan was doing great too. He was managing to control himself and his emotions, despite the class's poking and prodding and Chloe's very blatant verbal abuse. When it was getting to be too much, he went into the locker room, listened to some music, and calmed himself down. He was just fine all on his own. And here she went and messed it up. Tell Mylene your feelings. I may be blind, but it isn't hard to tell that you're both attracted to each other. Really, Marinette? Really? Despite the obvious attraction between the two, when Marinette was spying on them from another room, Ivan went to confess. It went poorly, and Mylene ran away. To be fair to Mylene, Ivan was trying to sing a song, but it ended with him screaming lyrics in her face, and it scared poor Mylene, and Stoneheart got reakumatized. Oh, and her failure did not end there. No, no. Alia would have been a perfect fit for a superhero. She was very knowledgeable about the superhero community, from what Marinette got from the small conversation with her walking into the school. She was daring. She ran right into battle to get footage. Marinette didn't doubt that she would do the same to save lives. And, yeah, Alia didn't seem like she had any form of physical training. She had the average physique of a Parisian teen. But the suit definitely added strength and durability, and Marinette had no doubt Alia would be enthusiastic enough to get physical training. She even saw a very muscular girl, who Marinette could tell had some very intense form of combat training, walk with Alia to school. And if Marinette read her lips right, the woman referred to Alia as her little sister. Even if that was exaggerated, and they weren't blood relatives, they seemed to be close enough that Alia could request some training. Alia really fit most of the boxes for a potential superhero. And what did Marinette do? She messed it up. It seemed to be a running theme for the past few days. Mama and Papa said that her teenage years would be hard, and she would be faced with a lot of decision that could affect the rest of her life. But she didn't think either of them had this in mind. Want to know what the icing on the top of the cake? Stoneheart kidnapped Mylene and Chloe. I mean, she couldn't really blame him on the Chloe front. But Mylene was a sweet girl. She certainly didn't deserve to be kidnapped. And, well, no one deserved to be kidnapped, not even Chloe. So, take number 2 of giving Alia Caesar the miraculous. Failed. Because Alia was getting crushed beneath the car. Cat Noir was captured. She had no idea where Stoneheart was, let alone Chloe and Mylene. Not to mention everyone else is currently being held against their will. And no one was here to fix anything. No one here to retrieve Chat Noir. No one to save Chloe, Mylene, Ivan, the countless other stone beings. No one except... God damn it. Just once, Alia was trapped, Chat Noir taken, an innumerable amount of people either hostages or turning into monsters. Everyone was seeking refuge and safety in their houses, huddled up in front of the TV, watching the news, waiting for someone to come save them. Wherever the hell the Justice League was, they weren't here, and it didn't look like they were coming. How was she supposed to slip someone else the earrings? Everyone was hiding out in their houses. If someone knew it was her giving them it, wouldn't be hard for them to realize who it had been in Alia's up-close footage of the heroes, broadcasted on the news across the whole of Paris. She didn't need those kind of questions. So Marinette made a decision, this time a carefully thought out and reasoned one. One to take the pair of earrings out of the box that she still had a hard time comprehending, and pushing them through her ears. So she made a decision to speak the 3 words that had so haphazardly been spoken not 24 hours earlier. A decision that the moment that was made, she could practically feel the blood starting to move faster through her veins. Tiki, spots on! Last time she transformed, it was cathartic. It felt as if someone had injected her with an energy drink. She had felt as if she could run, jump, swing for hours without ever getting tired. No matter how many hits, no matter if she got thrown, no matter how hard she landed, it's as if she never felt it. Last time, she allowed her body to take over her motions. She had completely silenced her mind and let it fall into the background of silence. Every bit of self-doubt, every bit of uncertainty, every bit of hesitancy, indecision was all gone. Now, that was not the case. This time, every move of her muscles, every flick of her wrist, every breath she took in, took conscious effort. Was not the little oasis on an adrenaline high like it originally was. It was screaming at her so many things she couldn't even process the words, let alone process what they meant. You're flicking your wrist wrong. It's not going to latch. Your landing is wrong. You're going to twist your ankle. You're not strong enough. You couldn't possibly pull it off. Her muscles were screaming at her in protest every time she swung, and jumped, and ran. Every time she breathed, her lungs constricted and fought against the most basic of her instincts. She pulled and heaved the car off Alia, freeing her. She really wanted to double over, take a few minutes to get her breath, and just wanted to take off the damn earrings, throw them at Alia, and tell her, have at it. But she couldn't, because she had more work to do. Saving Chat Noir made her realize how grateful she was that the flooring of the gymnasium she went to was thickly padded and sprung, because her knees hurt, landing like she normally did on the hard surface. Well, if her coach told her to watch out for stress fractures in practice, she sure was going to have to now. And then they ran to the tower. Her lungs burned. Every breath felt as if someone was pouring alcohol in her lungs. She wanted to cough. She needed to cough. She needed to stop, let her sore legs fall out from under her. But she couldn't. She just couldn't. She couldn't just stop. She couldn't just sit here and say she was done. She couldn't leave Paris without a way to save itself. So she ran. She ran and ran with Chat Noir by her side, leading her to the Eiffel Tower, where everyone was watching the spectacle that was Stoneheart. They were there in just enough time for her to catch Chloe after being thrown from the Eiffel Tower hundreds of feet away. In gymnastics, she often landed on her arms and legs with several 100 pounds of force. With all the tricks she did, the momentum she would build up on average, she had about 500 pounds of force coming down on her legs and hands daily. But this, the force of a 110-pound girl, after being thrown from 100 feet away by a creature with immeasurable strength, was much harder than that. Ladybug wouldn't have been surprised if it was 1,000 pounds of force. It made her feel as if her flesh was going to peel off of her bones and drop to the ground just to escape the stress it was under. But she didn't. She didn't drop Chloe. She didn't drop herself to the ground. She let Chloe go and kept standing. She didn't, even when Officer Rain Comprix called down from the top of the police vehicle. Step away. Let the professionals handle this. You've already failed once. She didn't, even if it was the one time her mind was making logical steps towards taking off the earrings and handing them over. Because what he said, it was confirmation of everything she thought in her head. Every thought that she should just stop because she already failed. She wanted to just drop to the ground and cry, rip out the earrings, tell them she was sorry, that she wasn't good enough. But she didn't, because something stopped her. The roar Stoneheart was breathing out. Was that butterflies? She could see them, clear as day, even from this distance. Every wing, every thorax, every head, every antennae, all of it. All with perfect clarity. A particular darkness corroded all of them. And those butterflies, thousands of butterflies all formed together, forming a nose, cheek, lip, eyes, and face. One that spoke to them all. People of Paris, listen closely. I am Hawkmoth. She didn't have to evaluate people to feel it. She didn't have to check anyone's heart rate. anyone's breathing pattern, anyone's facial expressions. She knew how they all felt. It was in the air, rolling off of them. Pure, unadulterated fear. Ladybug, Chat Noir. Give me the ladybug earrings and the black cat ring now. You've done enough damage to these innocent people. It was like an echo, a curling feeling of deja vu in her gut, from words she now only heard in her dreams, nightmares to be more precise. It was a different voice, they were different words, a different language, but there was something in the tone, something lying under it, something that made her want to crawl into her mama and papa's bed like she always did after those nightmares. Gaslighting. A form of manipulation where an abuser changes the perspective of the situation for the victim to make them believe they were the ones in the wrong. Her mother and her teachers would do it to her often, her grandfather as well. How they would tell her that the marks on her back from the lashings were her own fault for not succeeding. They had said that while they were holding the bloody whip in their hands. How it had been her fault for being a disappointment. She didn't recall asking to be a girl. She didn't recall when being female was abhorrent. How they threw her out for being blind. She didn't recall asking for acid to be thrown in her face. She didn't recall blinding herself. She knew who the bad guy was. Nice try, but I know who the bad guy is. She started walking towards the face made of butterflies. Slow, even steps. Behind her, she could see the people shifting, turning from facing the tower to her. It wasn't her hands that held the whip and brought it down on her back. It wasn't her who brought the hand down on her cheek. It wasn't her who threw acid in her eyes. It's not us who turn these innocent victims into villains and force them to do your bidding. It was you, grandfather. It was you, mother. It's you, Hawkmoth. She wanted to run. She wanted to quit and stop, to have someone else do it. It wasn't what she wanted. She wanted to dump this responsibility on some unsuspecting person and have them deal with it, because it got hard. Isn't that what Mother did? When things got hard? When she couldn't or didn't want to do something? She manipulated others. She knew what they so desperately wanted and catered to them. She utilized their beliefs against them. Here she was, wanting to dump the responsibility of being a hero onto Alia, because she liked superheroes and seemed to be fearless. She would be like Mother. She refused to be like Mother. No matter how long it takes, I will find you, and you will be brought to justice. She sprung at the cloud of Akumas with grace only coming from her years of gymnastics training, and threw her yo-yo into the swarm to collect the Akumas, as Tiki told her she needed to do the night before. She landed on the Eiffel Tower, where Stoneheart was standing moments ago, now seeing all the people below her, looking at her. She could see the people in helicopters, some probably police, maybe one or two news stations with their cameras pointed at her, broadcasting these moments to everyone across Paris, to people who were currently watching her, and every single one of them waiting to see what she would do next, see if she was going to run, something that with all these people looking at her, she desperately wanted to do, see if she was going to pull the earrings out and throw them to someone else, say that she can't, she wouldn't do this, but she couldn't. She wouldn't. She wouldn't run like Mother. She wasn't going to shove the responsibility of Ladybug onto another girl because she decided things got too hard. She would never do that. It was never that she thought she couldn't do it. She didn't want to do it. And when the going got tough for her mother, she bailed and left others to deal with her mess. She would not be like her. Let me promise you, whoever wants to harm you, Ladybug and Chat Noir will do everything in our power to keep you safe. With that, she threw her yo-yo and released the butterflies. No longer were they marred with dark energy. They were gorgeous. It was truly a beautiful sight. She had always loved butterflies. She really loved anything that was small and flying. And this sight of hundreds of butterflies that felt so pure of the darkness in them was no less beautiful, all surrounding her, herself being the epicenter. It was absolutely mesmerizing. The gorgeous sight was interrupted by her seeing movement of the still akumatized Ivan behind her. Fighting him was hard and taxing, and it hurt, but it was so worth it in the end, because she got to see it, the miraculous ladybug her Kawami had briefly mentioned. If she thought Tiki was near blinding, or that the swarm of purified butterflies was beautiful, then the wave of pure creation, because that really was what it was, pure creation, sweeping over Paris, cleaning all the damage and destruction caused by Stoneheart and the other stone beings, it was miraculous. She had been questioning the name earlier. It seemed a bit ambitious on the nose, but simply seeing that, it was an apt name. Looking down at her yo-yo, where everything had been sucked right back in where it belonged, well, Marinette just realized that something had always felt a bit off. Like realizing she had an itch for years and didn't realize it until she scratched it. Didn't even realize that she always felt as if something had been out of place and was wrong. But standing right here, transformed using a piece of jewelry that had been left in her room just a day ago, learning what she actually was, learning about her place in the world, well, she never felt so right. Bonus. Marinette felt lighter coming home, like a weight had been lifted off her chest. Well, that was until she went through the apartment to find her parents frantic. They had been really worried when she hadn't come home after Stoneheart was reakumatized. The first 10 minutes after she walked through the door were spent with Mum and Papa asking her if she was okay and if she was injured, which meant Marinette spent 10 minutes constantly reassuring them that she was fine and uninjured, and she had just gotten stuck at school with a few teachers, though she didn't remember which. While watching the news of the attack, apparently they were trying to call everyone they knew to ask where she was, and they tried the school, but the lines were busy. They had gone out on their own, but the authorities said that doing so would only impede their efforts. After everything ended, and she hadn't returned home immediately afterwards, they started to panic, and Papa had been about to go out and start looking for her. Mama was still cupping her face and tilting her head around to see if she had any injuries, while Papa was making calls to the people they had asked earlier about where Marinette might be to tell them she was okay. When Marinette saw her eyes land on the earrings. Marinette, where did you get those earrings? I don't remember you having any like these. She started to play with the earrings in Marinette's ear and tried to get a closer look. Marinette didn't like to lie, but she was positive that the identity was supposed to stay under the radar, and she had just promised to Paris that she would protect them, and she didn't like to break promises. It felt like she was manipulating someone when she did, and Marinette was absolutely certain that Mama and Papa would not be on board with the idea of Marinette, their blind daughter, trapezing around the city and defeating supervillains in skin-tight suit and magic. So, lying it was. Oh, these? I got them from Alia. Yeah, I got them from Alia. She's a new girl in my class, and she thought I would look good with them. So she gave them to me. She saw her mum smile and stopped playing with them to just hold her face. Well, this Alia sounds like a lovely girl. Is she a new friend? Yeah, we sit by each other in Madame Baustier's class. She's new to the school, just moved to the area apparently. Well, you'll have to give her some pastries. Maybe grab her a box tomorrow morning as a welcome and a thank you for the earrings, Mummin suggested. Marinette sighed in relief. Yeah, I'll make sure to. Marinette finally got out of her Mummin's hold to go up to her room. And I agree with this Alia. Those earrings really do suit you. Marinette let out quite possibly the most painful smile she ever had, before turning around and running up the stairs that led to her bedroom, the sound of her feet hitting the stairs covering up her mumbling under her breath. You have no idea.